What's going on, guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video and the next episode in my weapon workshop tutorial series. This is the series where I go over absolutely everything you could possibly want to know about a given weapon, right from the basic moves available to you, all the way up to the main most efficient combos you should be using, and some overarching weapon theory. If you guys missed last week's episode, then I went over how to use the hammer, and over the course of the next few weeks, I'll be putting together guides to cover each of the 14 weapons in Monster Hunter World, and today we're continuing that by turning our attention to the Greatsword. The Greatsword is one of the original weapons in Monster Hunter, offering incredible power at the cost of mobility. With every swing of the sword capable of dishing out some truly impressive damage numbers, it's for sure a weapon that on paper appeals to a lot of people. However, good use of this weapon also requires good understanding of the monsters that you're fighting, since mobility is not on your side. When it's drawn, you move incredibly slowly, and as such, good knowledge of your target allows you to position yourself correctly so as to take advantage of any openings and sneak in those big damage hits, whilst also being mindful of those situations where you simply need to cut your losses and get out. However, thanks to a few new additions in Monster Hunter World, the Greatsword now has even more opportunities for big damage, and also allows players to be a little more aggressive in combat. In short, Greatsword has never felt better. Now, before we dive in and go over the core moves of the weapon, let's talk very quickly about a couple of basic Greatsword principles. As mentioned, it is an incredibly slow weapon, and as such, your Greatsword playstyle is very much hit and run. You approach your target with your weapon sheath, draw into your attacks to deal massive damage, then when the monster moves, you put your weapon away and reposition. The introduction of Tackle, which I'll speak more about shortly, does offer you some interesting options to reposition safely and play more aggressively without having to always put your weapon away, but ultimately, if you do any sort of repositioning or chasing, you will never walk with your weapon out. In addition to this, something unique to the Greatsword is that the damage you deal is somewhat relative to the part of the blade you hit with. This used to be a little more prevalent in the past, in World it seems to be a little less strict, but if you land a hit with the tip of the blade, you won't be doing as much damage as if you hit with the meat of the blade, so to speak. Just picture how heavy this weapon is. If you just hit with the end, you're essentially scratching the monster. Meanwhile, if you hit with the whole thing, you're cleaving your way through. A lot of the time you won't need to think about this, provided you're near enough the monster, most attacks will just land like this anyway. But in select situations, say you're positioning a big hit on a sleeping monster, then it pays to remember this if you really want to maximise your damage output. So, with all that covered, now let's go over the moves. Pressing triangle twice will see you perform a very basic overhead chop, followed by a slap with the side of the sword. That first hit can be charged, and we'll speak more about that in just a moment, but the second hit also deals impact damage, so should you want to, you can use this as a means to KO the monster. However, as you'll find out soon enough, that's not your only means for KO anymore. Holding down triangle will then charge that first overhead slash. There are 3 levels of charge. You can see the red glow pulse with each level, and letting go of the button will then unleash the attack. Now, it should go without saying that the higher level charge, the more damage you're doing, but do note that it's possible to overcharge this move. If you hold triangle beyond the 3rd pulse, this will instead result in a weaker hit coming out. Meanwhile, if you let go as the pulse happens, you'll see this red, almost flame-like effect follow the sword as you swing it down. This is your visual indicator that you've timed it right. This means you're doing the most damage. Now, your charge times may vary depending on whether you're using the focus armor skill or not, so instead of focusing on the timing, just focus on the pulse. The second you see it, or you feel it, just let go, and you'll be golden. You also want to get into the habit of rolling out with X after landing big hits like this and some of the other ones you'll see later, since it allows you to mitigate the somewhat slow ending animation and will allow you to get back into the action much quicker. You definitely don't want to be landing these hits and just waiting while your sword is stuck in the ground. You can also use the left stick to turn a little bit to the left or to the right during the charge, so if you need to reposition slightly in order to ensure the hit lands, then this option is available to you. This is also going to become incredibly important later on, since there are a couple of additional charge attacks that can follow this first attack, the ones that will ultimately lead to your big damage numbers. But let's finish going over the basics first. Pressing circle will perform a wide slash, and pressing circle 3 times will perform a wide slash into a tackle and then into a jumping slash. The jumping slash moves you forward quite some distance, so it can be useful if you need to close the gap between you and the monster mid-combo, plus you can then go from the final hit back into the triangle sword slap, which can then loop back into the charged attack. So if you find yourself in the correct positioning following the jumping slash, then know that this follow-up option is available to you. Furthermore, you can go straight from the wide slash into a triangle charge as well, so there's a couple of ways to tie this all together. However, before we press on, I want to speak quickly about the tackle that featured in the circle combo. Tackle is a new move introduced in Monster Hunter World that fortifies you during the animation, making you immune to flinching, or being blown away by even the strongest or fiercest of attacks. In other words, you can tackle through incoming attacks. Additionally, this tackle also deals impact damage, so if done to a monster's head, it is indeed possible to KO a monster using this move. As you'll find out very soon, there are also multiple ways to get to the tackle, not just from the circle combo, so it's without a doubt a move that's going to form a core part of your new greatsword playstyle. The ability to tackle through attacks that you would otherwise need to guard or roll away from allows you to create your own openings in combat, so instead of having to read the monster and wait for a window to attack, tackle is a means to create openings on your terms. Pressing triangle and circle together will perform the Rising Slash. This is a high-reaching attack that can be used to hit targets like tails or horns that would otherwise be out of reach of your wider sweeping attacks. This is also another move that can send your teammates flying, so be mindful of this when hunting with others. You can then tie this all together in a basic combo, triangle plus circle. This can be looped indefinitely should you wish, but note that the wide slash does result in you moving forward a little bit. Alternatively, you can just loop triangle and triangle plus circle together. This is a short, high-reaching combo that could be used to attack a tail if, say, the monster was in a shock trap, and given that you dropped the wide slash, this keeps you a little bit more rooted on the spot with minimal forward movement. Now, returning for a moment to speak about the tackle, here are some other ways that you can access it outside of the bog standard circle combo. Holding down triangle to charge an overhead slash and pressing circle will see you cancel the charge into a tackle. This is useful for two main reasons. One is that it allows you to cancel out of a charge in a safe way, should the monster turn to attack you and you realise your opening has gone. Alternatively, you can take advantage of the time taken to charge to line up a tackle if you see the monster readying an attack. Since the tackle has some interesting follow-up options, which we'll speak about shortly, this is for sure something you'll be doing a lot. On top of that, following a roll with X, you can press triangle to get directly into a tackle, so if perhaps you want to close the gap between you and the monster, then transition straight into an attack, a tackle following a roll is a fast and safe way to dive into combat. You can also go into a wide slash with circle following an evade roll, but in truth, this isn't something you'll be using a great deal. It is also possible to go into a tackle from guard, so let's very quickly go over blocking with this weapon. Holding down R2 will allow you to block incoming attacks, but since you're using your sword to do this, it also heavily depletes your sharpness. Generally speaking, you want to be using tackle to push through attacks as opposed to guarding them, but know that this option is available to you if you were pinned in a corner, being pressured and just wanted to turtle up for a moment. Also note that you can draw directly into guard just by holding R2 with your weapon sheathed. You can also hold down L2 whilst guarding, and using your right stick to move the camera, you're also able to move where you're guarding, so you can rotate on the spot to block an incoming move. But again, just try not to rely on this too much. Consider guarding more of an emergency thing that you just do if you have no other options. However, if you press triangle whilst guarding, you perform a kick, useful for waking up teammates or getting them out of a stun. But more useful than that, pressing triangle a second time will allow you to go into the tackle again. So, you can tackle from charge, tackle from the circle combo, from a roll, and now from a guard. Plenty of ways to get to the tackle, and as such, that should further reinforce just how integral it's going to be in the new way you use this weapon. So, those are the basics, but now let's talk about the real damage dealers, strong charge and true charge. Following an overhead slash, whether it be charged or not, you can then pull back and press triangle to go into the strong charge. This is more powerful than the first hit, it can also be charged, has 3 levels, and much like the first one, can also be overcharged. Furthermore, you can also adjust your angle slightly whilst charging the first hit, so if you combine these together, then by the time you land the second hit, you can move quite a bit. Now, knowing what we do about tackle, it's also possible to cancel the first hit using circle mid-charge, and then you can either press or hold triangle to go directly into the strong charge. Similarly, if you roll, then press triangle to go into the tackle, and just hold triangle, you will go directly into the strong charge, completely skipping the first hit. And you can also do the same from guard. Guard, kick, tackle, then hold triangle to initiate the strong charge. Now, there are a few follow-up options following the strong charge. You can press triangle to go into the side slap, and this is marginally stronger. Following the strong charge, you'll notice how the blade glows with the attack. You can also press triangle or circle to go into the upswing, again more powerful following that attack. Or perhaps the most useful one, you can press circle to go into what's called the strong wide slash. This does good damage, is again stronger following the strong charge, and you might use this if you decide that there's not much of an opening following the strong charge and as such you just want to end in some decent damage. However, in truth, while each of those moves can provide some value, they're really not what you want to be focusing your attention on. The move you really want to be building up to, the key pillar in the big damage that you're going to be dealing, is the true charge slash. Following a strong charge, if you pull back and press triangle again, you'll go into the true charge slash. This can also be charged, although the charging animation is much quicker since the first pulse occurs during the wind-up animation. When you let it out, there's a weak first hit, followed by a powerful second hit. If you perform all 3 hits in the combo uncharged, the true charge slash does more damage than the first 2 hits combined. if you charge every single hit in the combo, the True Charge Slash again does more damage than the first 2 hits combined, and as such, this will become the core focus of your Greatsword playstyle in World. In past games, there was a much stronger focus on the first hit and strong charge. You would run around, draw into charge, land it, and then follow up. And while there can still be value in that playstyle, and it can result in some decent damage numbers, in World, if you really want to be maximising your damage potential, you're going to want to be getting to True Charge Slash as quickly and frequently as possible. Obviously it won't always be possible, sometimes you need to play it safe and just get in the odd attack here and there, but given that Tackle now provides you options to play a little more recklessly, the True Charge Slash does actually become a lot more accessible than you might have first thought. After all, even uncharged, it does good damage, so in situations where your window is tight, you'll be looking to let out an uncharged True Charge Slash. And since it is such an important move, let's very quickly recap the ways you can get to it. First up, the full combo, triangle, back plus triangle, back plus triangle. Remember that each stage of this combo can be charged, but if you waste your time charging the first 2 hits and ultimately end up missing the True Charge Slash, then you're sort of doing yourself a disservice. You could also use circle to cancel the first 2 charge hits and go directly into the True Charge Slash, and keep in mind that if you're hit during this process, provided your tackles are timed well, you can tank the damage. You can also roll, press triangle to tackle, and then go directly into the strong charge, and then either let that move out and go into True Charge Slash, or you can press circle to cancel the strong charge, and then go directly into the final hit. Alternatively, you can also do this from guard by going guard, kick, tackle, and then go into strong charge, and then again, much like before, you can either cancel that, or let the attack out, and follow up into the True Charge Slash. Also, speaking of cancelling, when you're charging your True Charge Slash, you can also press circle to cancel it, tackle forward, and if you then hold triangle straight after, you'll dive back into the True Charge animation. So if perhaps you needed to delay that attack for a bit longer, you can essentially tackle indefinitely to keep it held. Now we're going to speak a little bit more about True Charge Slash again when we go over the core moves that you want to focus on, but I cannot stress enough how important this move is. It might seem a little lengthy to get to, and might seem like it requires a little bit more commitment, plus if you played Greatsword in previous games, it somewhat goes against the grain. But given the damage potential of this move, if you're not prioritising it wherever possible, you're honestly missing out on a lot of what this weapon now has to offer. However, before we move on, let's very quickly go over aerial and sliding moves. While sliding down a hill, holding triangle will initiate this charge, and then when you let go, you'll leap into the air, and if you press triangle, you go into a plunging thrust. This is an incredibly cool looking move, and it's also a good mounting option. You can also hold R2 while sliding to go directly into a guard. Jumping off a ledge, you can hold triangle to begin charging, and if you fall far enough, you can pull off a level 3 charge. Also note that since you're falling, this move cannot be overcharged, so you can hold this all the way down. Additionally, whilst running up a runnable surface like the mushroom walls or the vines, then you can jump off and hold triangle to again go into the jumping charge. Sadly, no fancy wall running moves this time, just a run and jump. But that's pretty much it for the moves. A simple selection, but some great potential. So how do we tie it all together? As mentioned a moment ago, Greatsword has changed in World. Sure, you can go and use it the old school way if you want, say with a crit draw build, and then run around drawing into your overhead charge attack, following into strong charge, and then even sneaking in the True Charge Slash should the opportunity present itself. But honestly, if you want to be using this weapon to its full potential, you really need to reprogram your brain and start working backwards. At any point, True Charge Slash should be your main focus. You should care about landing that first, and then thinking about your other options. If you spend time charging the first 2 hits and then your target moves, sure you've done some damage, but you've also missed with your most powerful attack. Now of course it goes without saying that your biggest damage dealing combo would be to charge all 3 hits of this combo. It does incredible damage, but also takes a very long time, and in truth, you're very rarely going to have an opening that big. So the question is then, what should I be doing? What is the fastest or the best way to get to the True Charge Slash? Well, first up, you can let the first 2 moves out in their level 1 state without charging them. This does some damage in the process, and then you get to the True Charge Slash. If your opening is limited, you can let this final hit out in its level 1 state, still doing good damage. Alternatively, should the opening be a little bit bigger, then you can sneak in the charge on the True Charge Slash. However, if you want to speed things up even further, you can then tackle to cancel the first 2 hits. Sure, you're losing a little bit of damage from those 2 hits, but you're also getting to that final hit a little bit quicker, and you have the safety of the first 2 tackles, which could be used to tank an incoming attack. However, tackling only really shaves off around a second or so your better options would be to dive right in from either a roll or a block. From a roll, you can go to a strong charge, cancel it with tackle, and then end up in the True Charge Slash. While marginally slower than from block, this is my personal favourite since it allows you to maintain pressure on the monster, you advance towards it, shunt through anything coming your way with the tackle, and dive right into the attack. Even if you don't have an opening, by firming the attack with your tackle, you've essentially created an opening. And since you hit so hard with your attacks, if the opening isn't there, there is a good chance that you may topple the monster in the process, in turn creating an opening. If however you don't want the forward movement, you could then shave a few extra milliseconds off and then go from guard, which is by far the quickest route. These moves are ideally what you'll be using a lot of the time. When the monster is moving around, sure you may have limited windows, but landing these big hits are what allows you to make it flinch or trip. So by being aggressive and tackling your way into combat, you'll often create openings in the process. And then when you've done that, then you have options to dip back into some of the bigger, more traditional, slower combos for that big damage. That being said, moves like the strong wide slash are still available to you should you decide you can't quite justify the true charge and you still want to wrap it up with a bit of damage. But in truth, if you're losing your opening, you'd again be better off just simply tackling for safety and then following up from there. So try, where possible, to think backwards. Look at your openings and work out what you have time for. Make sure the true charge hit lands, but if you know you have more time, then thinking backwards will let you decide whether you could perhaps afford to sneak in a charge on that strong charge too. Greatsword is a very hit and run style weapon. You don't want to commit too long to anything because you'll either lose your opening or you'll get hit. So you need to make sure that when you do dive in to do damage, you're making the most of those windows. Also, one final passing tip, since Greatsword has one of the most powerful single hit attacks in the game, it makes it the perfect weapon to wake up a sleeping monster. Now if you want to do the most damage, you want to be landing the true charge slash. So if you want to master your positioning so as to land that final hit, walk up to your target, block, roll backwards, turn around, then begin your combo. First hit, second hit, charge the true charge slash, and this positioning will see your first weak hit miss, and the strong second hit land, ensuring you do the most damage on wake up. And since the first hit that lands on a sleeping monster has its damage doubled, I'm sure you'll all agree, this is a worthwhile attack. Now, to round things out, this is a new addition this week, but you guys have been asking me in previous episodes what some recommended armor skills are, so I figured I'd work it in from this point onwards. It should go without saying that damage and affinity boosting skills are a given, stacking things like attack boost, weakness exploit, agitator, critical boost, critical eye, or even maximum might. Those are a given. Weakness exploit and attack boost especially, but combinations of those apply to many weapons. So speaking more for the Greatsword, Focus is a favourite for a lot of Greatsword users. It speeds up charge times, allowing you to get to that all-important true charge slash much quicker. This is a skill that I have without question on any of my Greatsword sets that I make. Earplugs is another nice one. It's not necessary, of course, but if you're committing to charge attacks, then monster roars can often be free openings. Now yes, you can tackle through a roar, but if you're not confident with your timing, then having a set with earplugs will essentially allow you to monopolize on the roar window, possibly even pulling off a flinch if you land a damaging hit. Quick Sheath is another nice option since you have a somewhat hit and run playstyle with the Greatsword, so you will be putting your weapon away quite a lot. And finally, Critical Draw. This one in truth doesn't have as much value anymore. It was a big favourite in the past given the Greatsword playstyle, but since your focus now is true charge slash, then crit draw doesn't affect that move. So if you're playing to get to that attack, I'd say this skill isn't necessary. But if you want to run Greatsword with the old school style, then be my guest. But that, my friends, is pretty much it. That was my tutorial for the Greatsword. A simple yet powerful weapon with some new tricks in world that make it a ton of fun to use. If you have any questions, by all means let me know. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.